Welcome to Socratic Spark, where timeless wisdom fuels unstoppable motivation. Here, we go beyond cliches and empty slogans. Inspired by the fearless life of Socrates, this channel is about questioning limits, conquering fear, and finding strength through truth. Over 2,400 years ago, Socrates stood against power, ignorance, and even death, with nothing but the courage to question. Today, his spirit still speaks. The unexamined life is not worth living. Join us as we transform ancient philosophy into modern power. Think deeper, lie braver, rise stronger. Subscribe and let wisdom ignite your spark. What are the greatest barrier to your deepest ambitions isn't the world around you, but the illusions you built within? Have you ever paused amid the rush of daily life? The endless scroll of notifications, the pressure to conform, the quiet doubts that whisper in the night, and ask yourself, am I truly living or merely existing? Socrates, that relentless seeker from ancient Athens, poses this question across the centuries, as if he's leaning in close, his voice a gentle but insistent probe. Is the unexamined life worth living? In a world drowning in distractions and false certainties, his inquiry cuts through like a blade, forcing you to confront your own ignorance, your hidden fears, your unspoken yearnings. What drives you forward when motivation wanes? Is it fleeting pleasures, societal approval, or something eternal? Socrates knew that true motivation springs from this very discomfort, the spark of self-inquiry that transforms apathy into action. As we delve into his philosophy, prepare to be challenged, not comforted. For in answering his questions, you may unlock a motivation so intrinsic, so unstoppable, that it propels you toward a life of purpose and authenticity. Dear listener, imagine for a moment that the voice echoing in your ears isn't mine, but that of Socrates himself, rough-hewn, probing, laced with the wisdom of a man who walked the dusty street of Athens over 2 millennia ago. He's not a marble statue in a museum, cold and distant. No, he's alive, leaning against a market stall, eyes twinkling with mischief as he turns to you and asks, what do you truly know? In this cinematic journey through philosophy, we'll strip away the layers of history to reveal Socrates as your personal guide, a mentor whose questions can shatter the chains of complacency and ignite an inner fire that burns eternally. Why does Socrates matter today, in our age of algorithms and instant gratification? Because his life was a rebellion against the superficial, a relentless pursuit of truth in a world that preferred comfortable lies. He famously declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living," a mantra that cuts the heart of modern struggles. The burnout from chasing empty successes, the anxiety conforming to societal scripts, the quiet despair of wondering if this is all there is. Socrates confronted power head-on, from the sophists peddling rhetoric for profit to the Athenian elite who sentenced him to death. His courage in the face of execution wasn't born of recklessness, but of profound conviction that virtue and truth are the only paths to a meaningful existence. Think of your own life, the pressures to fit in, the temptations to ignore injustice, the fear of standing alone. Socrates connects directly to these, showing how questioning assumptions can lead to unbreakable motivation. He was misunderstood in his time, branded a troublemaker, a corrupter of youth. Yet history reveres him as a father of Western philosophy, influencing giants like Plato, who immortalized his dialogues, and extended to thinkers like Nietzsche, who grapple with his ideas on truth and power. In our era, his spirit lives in whistleblowers, activists, and anyone who dares to ask why. Engage with Socrates, and I promise you'll gain more than knowledge. Sharper clarity about your desires and flaws, the courage to live authentically amid chaos, and a deep appreciation for truth as the ultimate motivator. We'll explore this through keynotes that unpack his wisdom, each one a lantern illuminating the path. Listen closely, as if he's speaking just to you. Intimate, urgent, personal. By the end, his secret will be yours. Motivation that doesn't fade, because it's rooted in the soul's eternal quest for virtue. Picture yourself lost in a labyrinth of daily routines, each turn leading to the same dead ends of doubt and dissatisfaction. Work that drains your spirit, relationships built on unspoken compromises, dreams deferred for the sake of security. It's in these moments of quiet frustration that Socrates' voice emerges, urging you to summon the courage to question. Why do I accept this path? What if there's more? This courage isn't the bravado of warriors charging into battle. It's the quiet resolve of a philosopher wandering the agora, poking at the foundations of society with simple, piercing inquiries. Storytelling brings Socrates to life. Recall the bustling marketplace of Athens, where he encountered Euthyphro, a self-assured priest claiming divine knowledge. Socrates, with his disheveled robe and barefoot stance, didn't attack. He inquired. "What is piety?" he asked, unraveling Euthyphro's certainties until man fled in confusion. Or consider his debates with the sophists, those silver-tongued rhetoricians who sold wisdom like merchants hawking wares. Socrates exposed their relativism as hollow, insisting that truth isn't for sale. It's discovered through relentless dialogue. His famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living," echoes here, influencing Plato's Republic, where justice is probed through allegory, and Aristotle's Ethics, which built on Socratic virtue. Even Augustine in his Confessions wrestled with Socratic self-examination, turning inward to find God. Nietzsche, in his Critique of Morality, admired Socrates' disruptive force, calling him a turning point in history. Modern truth-seekers like Martin Luther King Jr. drew from this courage, questioning unjust laws and the spirit of civil disobedience. Practically, apply this today. Start small. Question a false belief, like the myth that success equals wealth. Probe it. Does money bring fulfillment, or is it virtue? In facing fear, ask, what scares me about change? This builds integrity, resisting corruption in a world of ethical shortcuts. Metaphorically, Socrates is a gadfly stinging the horse's state, as he described himself in his Apology. Irritating, but essential to awaken sluggish souls. As this courage awakens your inner drive, it naturally leads to embracing the humility that follows, recognizing that true wisdom begins in admitting what we don't know. In the dim glow of uncertainty, where doubts flicker like shadows on cave walls, we often cling to illusions of knowledge to ward off the void. Yet Socrates teaches that this void is not an enemy. It's the fertile ground from which wisdom sprouts. "I know that I know nothing," he proclaimed, a paradox that unsettles the ego but liberates the mind, turning ignorance from a weakness into a spark of unstoppable curiosity. Dive into his life. During his trial, as recounted in Plato's Apology, Socrates shared how the oracle at Delphi declared him the wisest man. Puzzled, he set out to question artisans, poets, and politicians, finding that while they claimed expertise, their knowledge was superficial. His own wisdom, acknowledging his limits. This humility shown in intimate moments, like teaching young Alcibiades, a handsome aristocrat tempted by power. Socrates didn't lecture. He questioned, revealing Alcibiades' ignorance of justice, planting seeds of self-awareness. This idea rippled through history. Plato expanded it in the allegory of the cave, where prisoners mistake shadows for reality, much like our unexamined assumptions. Aristotle systematized it into empirical inquiry. Augustine fused it with Christian humility, confessing his sins as a path to divine truth. Nietzsche, ever the contrarian, critiqued Socrates' rationalism but echoed his deconstruction of false idols. Today, thinkers like Karl Popper in Philosophy of Science embrace falsifiability, admitting theories are provisional, pure Socratic ignorance. For you, practically, combat false wisdom by journaling doubts. What do I assume about my career? Relationships? Question them daily, fostering integrity amid misinformation. Face fear by admitting vulnerability. It builds resilience, like a tree rooted deep in uncertain soil. Imagery abounds. Wisdom is a lantern in the dark, illuminating only enough to see the next step, not the entire path. Socrates' ignorance is the compass pointing toward truth, motivating endless exploration. From this humble foundation, we confront the trials that test our commitment to truth, where Socrates' own condemnation becomes a beacon for our struggles. Amid the clamor of accusation and the weight of impending judgment, truth stands trial, not in a courtroom of stone, but in the arena of the human soul. Socrates' own trial in 399 BCE exemplifies this. Falsely charged with impiety and corrupting youth, he defended not his life, but a pursuit of truth itself, revealing how motivation thrives in adversity. Visualize the scene. The Athenian assembly, a sea of faces hardened by war and plague, glaring at the philosopher who dared question their gods and ways. Socrates didn't plead. He interrogated his accusers, exposing their hypocrisy. "If you kill me," he warned, "you will injure yourselves more than you injure me." This wasn't arrogance. It was truth's defiance. His dialogues with Meletus, the poet-accuser, dismantled claims with logic, showing truth as a shield against corruption. Influences cascade. Plato's Crito captures Socrates' refusing escape, prioritizing justice over survival, a model for Stoics like Epictetus. Aristotle's Politics critiques democracy's flaws, echoing Socratic warnings. Augustine saw in the trial a parallel to Christ's passion. Nietzsche viewed it as the death of tragedy, birthing rationalism. Modern parallels abound in figures like Galileo, facing inquisition for truth, or whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, risking all for transparency. Apply it now. In personal trials, job loss, betrayal, question, what truth am I avoiding? This builds courage, resisting societal corruption. Metaphors. Truth as a forge, hammering the soul into strength. Socrates as the anvil, unyielding. This trial tempers motivation, leading us to examine the life we live, lest it slip into worthlessness. Wandering through days like a ship without a rudder, buffeted by winds of whim and circumstance. This is the unexamined life Socrates decried, existence void of direction, where motivation fizzles in the shallows of routine. His warning, the unexamined life is not worth living, invites us to steer inward, charting a course of self-discovery that fuels enduring drive. From Plato's accounts, Socrates in prison, hours from death, discoursing with friends on the soul's immortality in Phaedo. He examined fears of death, concluding virtue transcends the body. His marketplace teachings with youth like Xenophon challenge assumptions, fostering critical thinking. Legacy. Plato's dialogues immortalize this examination. Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics examines happiness as virtue's practice. Augustine's introspective theology examines sin and grace. Nietzsche's Become Who You Are examines self-overcoming. Today, cognitive therapy examines thoughts of mental health. Socratic questioning in education examines ideas. Practically, daily reflection. What values guide me? Examine biases to live authentically. Facing fear through inquiry. Imagery. Life is a garden. Examination, the weeding that allows virtue to bloom. Socrates' compass points to virtue, motivating us toward moral navigation in turbulent seas. As we align with this compass, the legacy of dialogue emerges, where questions become conversations that propel collective wisdom. In the relentless gale of life's uncertainties, where ambitions clash like thunderheads, temptations pull like treacherous currents, and the horizon blurs between right and wrong, how do you navigate without losing your way? Virtue, for Socrates, was no abstract ideal etched in stone tablets. It was a soul's unyielding compass, pointing true north amid the fog of desire and deceit. This inner guide, forged through relentless self-examination, became his secret to motivation that transcended fleeting rewards, propelling him through poverty, ridicule, and the shadow of death with unwavering resolve. Imagine yourself adrift in your own storm, a career crossroads tempting shortcuts, relationships fraying under self-interest, or societal pressures whispering that good enough is victory. Socrates whispers back, virtue isn't a burden. It's your anchor, your sail, the force that turns chaos into purposeful voyage. To grasp this, transport yourself to the sun-drenched symposiums of Athens, where wine flowed freely and egos inflated like sails in the wind. In Plato's Symposium, Socrates arrives late, barefoot and unadorned, amidst the elite debating love's fleeting passions. As the night unfolds, Aristophanes spins tales of soulmates, Agathon praises beauty's allure, but Socrates, drawing from the priestess Diotima, elevates the discourse. Love is not mere desire, but a ladder of ascent toward the eternal good. Virtue as the steps that lead the soul from physical to philosophical beauty. He doesn't sermonize. He questions, unraveling their indulgences to reveal that true virtue lies in pursuing knowledge of the just and the beautiful, not in conquest or pleasure. This wasn't idle chatter. It was motivation in action, as Socrates later confronted the sophist Gorgias in Plato's dialogue of the same name. Gorgias boasted rhetoric as a path to power, but Socrates pierced the veil. Is it better to suffer injustice or to commit it? He argued that virtue is knowledge. Knowing the good compels the soul to act rightly, while vice corrupts from within. Committing injustice wounds the perpetrator more than the victim, like a ship captain sabotaging his own vessel for a momentary gain. Socrates lived this, rejecting bribes from kings, scorning wealth. He chose poverty over compromise, his motivation rooted in the soul's harmony. His influence on virtue as compass ripples through eternity, a guiding light for thinkers adrift in their eras. Plato, his devoted student, immortalized this in the Republic, where the ideal state mirrors the virtuous soul, reason as a captain, spirit as a warrior, appetites as a crew, all aligned under justice's command. Aristotle, Plato's pupil, refined it into practical ethics in the Nicomachean Ethics, virtue as a golden mean between extremes, cultivated through habit, not innate decree, a compass calibrated by deliberate practice. Augustine, centuries later, Christianized this pagan fire in Confessions, confessing his youthful vices as deviations from God's true north, where virtue becomes caritas, love oriented toward the divine. Nietzsche, the iconoclast, wrestled with Socrates' rational virtue and thus spoke Zarathustra, critiquing it as life-denying yet, admiring its will to power when channeled authentically. Become who you are, he urged, echoing Socratic self-mastery. In the modern age, this legacy fuels figures like Viktor Frankl, who in Nazi camps found meaning through inner virtue, or contemporary leaders like Malala Yousafzai, whose courage against oppression stems from an unswerving moral compass. Even in psychology, virtue ethics inspires positive psychology's focus on character strengths, gratitude, perseverance, as tools for resilient motivation. Now, bring this compass into your hands, listener, for practical navigation in today's tempests. Start with daily calibration. At day's end, reflect like Socrates in his prison cell. Did my actions align with truth or veer toward convenience? Question temptations. In a boardroom pressure to cut ethical corners, ask, what harm does this do to my soul? This builds integrity, turning motivation from external carrots, promotions, likes, to intrinsic north, living justly. Face fear head-on. Virtue demands confronting injustice, whether calling out a friend's lie or resisting workplace corruption. Begin small. Practice temperance by saying no to impulse buys, fostering courage that snowballs into bold stands. In relationships, let virtue guide. Prioritize honesty over harmony, kindness over conquest, creating bonds that endure. Metaphors abound to illuminate. Picture your soul as a mariner's astrolabe, virtue the fixed star, pole star amid shifting constellations of desire. Or Socrates as the eternal wayfarer, his hemlock cup not poison but a final calibration, proving virtue's compass points beyond death. In a world of GPS distractions, algorithms dictating desires, ads charting false courses, this ancient tool reorients you toward purpose, making every step motivated by the good. Yet, as this compass steadies your course through virtue's steady hand, it points toward a greater horizon, the enduring power dialogue, where questions shared become the winds that carry wisdom forward across generations. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation that peeled back the layers of your beliefs, exposing truths you didn't know you held, or doubts you didn't dare admit? It's a fleeting moment, electric with discovery. When words become more than sound, they become mirrors, reflecting the soul's quiet corners. This is the pulse of Socratic dialogue, the living legacy of a man who turned questions into bridges, connecting minds across centuries, igniting a spark of collective wisdom that refuses to fade. Socrates didn't lecture. He conversed, weaving inquiry into a tapestry of shared pursuit, teaching us that true motivation flows not from solitary answers, but from the dance of minds seeking truth together. Picture Athens' agora at dusk, the air heavy with the scent of olives and debate. Socrates, unassuming in his tattered cloak, gathers a circle of young Athenians. Alcibiades, brash with ambition, Xenophon, earnest and curious. In Plato's Laches, he probes generals on courage. Is it endurance alone or endurance with wisdom? Their answers falter, contradictions unraveling like loose threads. He doesn't mock. He presses gently. Let us seek together, guiding them through the Elenchus, his method of questioning to expose flaws and birth insight. In the Symposium, over wine-soaked banter, he turns talk of love into a ladder toward the divine. each speaker refining the other's thought. These weren't monologues but symphonies, each voice a note harmonizing in pursuit of the good. As Plato records, Socrates saw himself as a midwife, not delivering truth, but aiding its birth from other souls, a dialogue that transformed listeners into seekers. This legacy cascaded through time like a river carving stone. Plato's dialogues, from Gorgias to Phaedo, immortalize a method, structuring philosophy as conversational quests, not dogmatic decrees. Aristotle, though critical of Socrates' idealism, adopted the spirit in his topics, formalizing dialectical reasoning as a tool for truth. The Stoics, like Epictetus in his discourses, echoed Socratic dialogue by urging self-examination through imagined debates with the self. Augustine's soliloquies internalized it, conversing with his soul to find God, a Christian echo of Socratic inquiry. Even Nietzsche, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, engages Socrates dialogically, wrestling with his shadow while praising his disruptive clarity. Today, the Socratic method thrives in law schools, where professors grill students to sharpen reasoning, or in therapy, where open-ended questions unearth buried truths. Think of TED Talks, where ideas spark from shared inquiry, or online forums where debates, however messy, carry Socratic DNA, urging collective reflection. For you, this legacy is a call to action. Engage in dialogue, not monologue. In a world of polarized shouting, practice Socratic listening. Ask a colleague, why do you believe that? Not to win, but to understand. At home, turn dinner into a symposium. What's justice to you? Watch ideas bloom, conflict soften. This builds integrity, resisting corruption of echo chambers where untested opinions fester. Face fear by inviting others' perspectives. What am I missing? It's courage disguised as humility. Picture dialogue as a lantern-lit circle in the dark, each voice a flame adding to the glow. Socrates' legacy isn't a relic. It's a living current, motivating us to seek truth not alone, but in communion, where questions forge bonds stronger than answers. This conversational fire, kindled in Athens, now passes to you, illuminating the path to a life examined, not in solitude, but in the vibrant, unending dialogue of human souls striving for the good. What if the shadow of your own mortality loomed not as a specter to flee, but as a fire to forge your purpose? In the quiet moments when life fragility whispers, when loss, failure, or the ticking clock stirs dread, Socrates offers a radical defiance, to face death not with fear, but with a resolve that transforms into the ultimate motivator. His final act, drinking hemlock with a smile, wasn't resignation. It was a triumph of the soul over the body, a testament that true motivation endures beyond life's fleeting stage, rooted in a commitment to truth and virtue that no end can extinguish. Step into Athens, 399 BCE. The air thick with the scent of dust and inevitability. In Plato's Phaedo, we find Socrates in his prison cell, hours from death, surrounded by weeping disciples. Phaedo, Crito, Simias. The jury's verdict is final, guilty of impiety and corrupting youth. Yet he's serene, sipping the poison as if it were wine at a symposium. What is death? He muses, probing as ever. Is it annihilation, or a release of soul to a realm of pure forms? He argues both, but lands on hope. If the soul is immortal, then death is but a journey to truth's embrace. His calm stems not from denial, but from a life examined, every choice aligned with virtue, every question a step toward wisdom. Earlier in the Apology, he scoffs at fear. To fear death, gentlemen, is no other than to think oneself wise when one is not, for it is to think one knows what one does not know. This defiance, facing the unknown with curiosity, turns mortality into motivation, urges followers to live boldly, not cower. This defiance shaped history's course. Plato, witnessing his master's end, channeled into the Phaedo's vision of an immortal soul, laying philosophy's foundation for seeking eternal truths. Aristotle, in his On the Soul, grappled with mortality's implications, grounding ethics in a life well lived before. Death's curtain falls. Augustine, in City of God, saw Socrates' fearless exit as a precursor to Christian martyrdom, where faith defies death's sting. Nietzsche, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, both critiqued Socrates' rationalism and admired his great health, a vitality that laughed at mortality's threat. Today, This echoes in hospice care, where patients like those guided by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross face death with acceptance, finding meaning in final reflections, or an activist like Nelson Mandela, who endured imprisonment with Socratic resolve. Knowing truth outlasts chains. For you, listener, this defiance is a daily practice. Confront mortality not as a distant dread, but as a clarion call. Journal tonight. If this were my last day, what truth would I defend? In moment of fear, job loss, illness, ask, does this align with my soul's purpose? This builds courage, resisting the corruption of a life half lived in avoidance. Picture death as a mirror, reflecting not an end but the urgency of now. Each choice a brushstroke on your soul's canvas. Socrates' hemlock cup is a metaphor. Not poison, but a potion distilling life's essence, urging you to act with integrity before the final sip. In workplaces chasing fleeting metrics or relationships clouded by unspoken fears, defy death by living fully. Speaking truth, choosing virtue, embracing the unknown with a philosopher's grin. This defiance, born in a prison cell, lights the path to a life not just examined, but lived with ferocious authenticity, where every question, every act, becomes a legacy that outlives the body's frail frame. As the echoes of Socrates' questions fade, we return to that piercing challenge whispered across centuries. Am I truly living or merely existing? Picture him now, standing in the shadow of his trial, the hemlock cup raised not in defeat, but in quiet triumph, his eyes alight with the fire of a life fully examined. In that final moment, Socrates wasn't just a man facing death. He was a beacon, illuminating the truth that motivation isn't born from fleeting desires or external rewards, but from the relentless pursuit of virtue, the courage to question, and the defiance to live authentically, even in mortality's glare. His wisdom distills into a timeless elixir. Ignorance is a humble seat of knowledge, virtue the soul's unerring compass, courage the breath of truth, and examine life the only one worth living. Dear listener, to honor Socrates is not to enshrine his words in dusty tomes, but to embody his spirit in the pulse of your days. Let his gadfly sting rouse you from the slumber of routine. Question the assumptions that chain you, challenge the injustices that dim your world. Defy the fear that whispers of death's finality. In a society drunk on distractions, where algorithms dictate truth and conformity tempts, his voice urges you to carve your own path. Ask, seek, live. Every doubt you probe, every truth you defend, every virtuous act weaves your legacy into the eternal dialogue he began. As the sun sets on Athens' ancient stones, Socrates' shadow stretches to you, his final question lingering like a star in the dawn. Will you dare to live the examined life? In that daring, you find not just motivation, but a life that burns bright, unquenched by time, a flame that lights the world one fearless question at a time.